Hello and welcome to the Cool Grandpa Podcast. This is your host Greg Payne coming at you from Studio 12. This podcast is about being the best possible grandpa you can be, focusing on what it is to be a grandpa and how we can all share that experience together for our grandchildren. I am glad you are here for the Cool Grandpa Podcast and this chance for us to have this one-on-one conversation here in December. Now, before we get started, I wanted to remind you that our friends at More Than Grand have a fantastic holiday guide that can help parents and grandparents really work out some of the kinks in our holiday planning, holiday festivities. It's not uncommon that we have a little bit of miscommunication. Maybe we hurt some feelings inadvertently because we haven't really talked about what we're doing over the holidays. The folks at More Than Grand have a fantastic resource that has been worked through with the help of parents as well as reviewed by a number of grandparents. And this resource is something that can really help you plan and have the most enjoyable holiday time face to face. So whether the grandkids and kids are coming to visit you or whether you're going to visit them, please check out the link to More Than Grand and check out this great holiday resource. The other thing I want to talk to you about is my children's book, My Grandpa's Grandpa, is still on sale. I've still got copies down in the garage, and I'd still love to get one out to you. Now, the best way for you to do this is to go to cool-grandpa.us, find the banner tab for the bookstore, click on that, and I've already got this marked down 20% through the end of the year so that you can enjoy a little bit of money back in your pocket as well as having a great book to share with your kids and your grandkids. With the holidays just around the corner, what I wanted to do is talk to you about gift giving. And I wanted to talk to you about what it is to really sink your teeth into finding a great gift for your grandkids, for your kids, for your family, and for your friends. Now, I know it's a tall order, and most of the time this means that you've got to run from store to store. You've got to go to the dreaded mall, maybe, or maybe it's going to be lots of browsing on Etsy or Amazon or any of the other stores around in the area. And of course, if you are hunting for gifts, make sure that you check out your local small stores. These people are working their buns off, and I know they appreciate everybody shopping in their own towns and shopping at these small stores because it makes a big difference when you're trying to compete with the likes of the internet. The fantastic gift, though, that I want to talk to you about is actually doing something that's going to be, maybe it's a little odd, maybe you haven't really thought about it, but I'm here to tell you the gift that I think you can give people, which is going to be the perfect gift, is actually you and your time. Now, for almost 4 years, I've been talking with grandfathers, adult grandkids, and experts on grandparenting. And the thing that seems to really come around and around, and when we talk about what the memories are around grandfathers and around the people in our lives, is that the time that is spent with the individual. Now, sure, everybody has a story about remembering a cherished pocket knife that they received from their grandpa when he thought they were old enough to have one, the car that grandpa helped somebody purchase, some of the different activities that grandpa took them on. But I'm telling you, all of those things also really are tightly interwoven with the idea of grandpa spending time with them. So the pocket knife is going to be tied to grandpa sitting on the front porch or the back deck and showing a young grandson or granddaughter how to whittle down a stick so that they could make a skewer to cook hot dogs over the campfire in the backyard. The other part of that, too, is the car that grandpa might have helped you out with. And the idea of being able to show that car off to your grandfather, take him around for a drive, spend some time with them, in this thing that he helped you get, but it's the time that you had together. And so this holiday season, what I want to do is really challenge you to find ways to gift the one gift that nobody else can replicate. Nobody else is making this gift. And that gift, again, is you and your time. So here's some ideas on how you can spend more time with your adult children, or if you still have kids at home, your kids before they leave the house, or your grandkids. And these things too are ideas that you can use with your friends and with your spouse, with anybody that means a lot to you, the thing that really helps them out and understand what that relationship is spending time together. So here we go. Here's some ideas. 1, share a walk or a hike without earbuds or electronics. You don't have to go hike the AT Appalachian Trail, and you don't have to do anything crazy like hike the Pacific Crest Trail. No, you can go find a lake somewhere close to you and go walk around the lake and take a nice, easy walk. Nothing strenuous, but, just being able to spend time walking up and down the street or walking around the neighborhood works as well. The idea is to be out there and being able to talk about everything and nothing. Grab a spontaneous meal and spend one-on-one time without rushing to return. This is a great one for grandfathers. So if you're visiting grandkids or they're here and you've got a lot in the house, being able to sneak off and spend some one-on-one time where you can sneak out and grab an ice cream or grab a hamburger and just sit there and listen to them talk and be able to share time and share presence with you is a great one. This next one, playing a board game, is fantastic, and you can definitely find some really awesome 2-player games if you want, or you can find some great multiplayer games. One of the games that I absolutely look forward to playing when the kids are older is Risk. I loved that game when I was growing up, and I absolutely can't wait to break out the red armies and the yellow army and the blue army and the black army and set up and draw those cards and start putting our armies on the board and sitting there for hours eating some popcorn and talking and listening to some music and just being able to share that time with the grandkids. I'm really looking forward to being able to use games as a way to connect with those grandkids. The next one that I want to talk about is one that you might not have been thinking about, but it's actually easy. Even if you got bum knees or, bad hip or you're not moving around quite as well as you used to, is going up to the, playground and having a game of horse. Now, for those of you not familiar with this game, this is great. You have somebody that starts and they take a shot at the basket. And if they make it, then the next person behind them has to take the same shot. And if you miss it, then you get an H. And then you go somewhere else on the court taking the shot. And then you keep going, and the first one to horse loses. And you can use whatever name you want. You can also do all sorts of fun things and trick shots and, throw it up granny style, do a hook shot, whatever it is. Sometimes those are really fun to kind of show off to young grandkids some of the different ways to actually shoot a basket. And again, you're not risking life and limb, and you're not going absolutely crazy from a physical standpoint, but you're out there moving around. You're out there at the, schoolyard, at the playground. Maybe it's in the cul-de-sac. Maybe it's in the front of the house. Who knows? Wherever you got a basket, you can do this game. And it's a great way to laugh, great way to connect. And again, it's not super stressful if you're not in the best physical shape. If it's appropriate and it's available, go to the lake, go to a lazy river and jump in a canoe, get into a rowboat, paddle around with your grandchild. Maybe take a rod and reel and or not. Just getting into a boat and moving around on the water is a great way to talk. And depending on the age of the child and how you're configured in the canoe or the rowboat, you don't even have to look at each other. You might be looking at the back of the head of the grandchild, or they might be looking at your back of the head. And that's a great way to talk even about heavier subjects, right? So if you want to start getting into if they're having a particularly hard time, if they're being challenged in certain ways at school or just in life in general, it's a great way to be together, be a little bit isolated, doing an activity, but you're not having to sit there and look at each other. So nobody feels like they're on the spot, but you can carry on a conversation with the person in the front and the person in the back. So that's a great way to spend time. Find yourself in a rowboat, find yourself in a canoe. Spend that time out there on the lake, out there on the river, and just have a good conversation. The next idea that I have for you to spend some time with a friend, with your grandchildren, with your family, is to find a car show. Maybe it's one of the local monthly caffeine and gasoline type things where everybody meets up at a coffee shop or a bagel shop or something in the morning on the third Saturday of the month with muscle cars and supercars and stuff, and you check that out. Or maybe it's more of an organized car show, but walking around, looking at cars, having kids ask you what it was like to drive around in some of these cars is great. I mean, it really feels old when people are talking to me about riding around in those IROC Camaros from back in the 80s, but that was a little while ago. What I love to do, though, is being able to show, when my sons were younger, show them kind of what my dream cars were. Some of the Ferraris that were around, some of the classic Corvettes, the Mustang, the 68 Fastback, the Bullet car, right? Whatever you find at those car shows, it's a great way to spark conversations going to the show and coming back from the show and walking around the cars, talking with people, getting their stories, but then also being able to find and explore a little bit more about what your grandkids really like. What are they into? What jumps out at your granddaughter that maybe you weren't even thinking about when it comes time looking at a classic Camaro? Does she like big slick tires on the back and she thinks that drag racing, an old muscle car, is going to be really cool? That may shock you, especially if she's into some of the more pop culture stuff that's going on. But you would never know if you weren't walking around the car show and asking her and talking about it. So that's a great way to spend time. The next one is going to be having a fire. You've heard me on this show many times talking about fire pit men's group and all these different men's groups where fire is around some of the activities they have. Well, this is great for just connecting. I mean, there's a magic to a fire, and it could be one of those portable little fire pits that you put on your back deck. It could be something more of a fire circle that you've got. It could be maybe just going up to the local state park, going car camping, hanging out and having a fire and just talking and just mellowing out, listening to some music and just talking about everything and nothing. And trust me, if you've got a grandchild that's not really talkative, that's kind of closed off, you get people around a campfire, they're going to open themselves up. They're going to lead into a conversation. It's just something about a fire. You can't help it. And the fire and that conversation is going to have its own pace. So you're not going to cover everything, but you might be surprised about how much you cover when you can just sit there and poke at something with a stick, and you can just kind of adjust the logs and the sticks on the fire to get more flame or let it burn down or whatever it is that you're trying to do with that fire. Having a fire and spending some time and being able just to kind of sit there and everybody stare into the fire and just kind of talk is a great way to share time with each other, and especially share time with you and get to know those kids, because I honestly, I guarantee it. And if you take kids to a fire and they don't talk and they don't do anything with you, let me know. and, I'll buy you a nice big hamburger dinner. But I guarantee you, getting kids, especially when they start to become teenagers and they're closed off a little bit, get them around that fire. They're going to open up. The last thing I have as far as an idea of what to do to spend time and to share yourself with your children, grandchildren, and even your friends is, and this is, we're going to talk about it a couple of different ways, but reading a book to the grandchildren. And if you have younger grandchildren, they may not be able to participate in some of the other activities that we've talked about yet. However, you can sit and read a book to them. You can sit and read a story. Now, I get it. If they're like 9 months old and they're just more interested in burping and spitting up and giggling, that's what 9-year-olds do, or 9 months olds do. But as they start to get older, you can start to read some little kids' books to them. And then you can start to go a little bit more advanced. One of the great memories that I have is of my father coming back from England on one of his many business trips and introducing me and my siblings to this character called Paddington Bear. And the way that he did that would be, as we all brushed our teeth and got ready for bed, my dad would sit there on the floor and read like a chapter or half a chapter of a Paddington Bear book. And I still remember that to this day, that was absolutely fantastic. I loved it. It was one of the few times, too, that you could get me and my brothers and sisters together and we weren't trying to kill each other. I mean, when we got together, whether it was saying, family prayer over a meal, or we were trying to do whatever it is that we were trying to do, you put the 7 of us together and somebody's going to try to cracking somebody else over the head and trying to get revenge. I mean, it was bloody murder sometimes trying to get us together. But, when my dad broke out Paddington Bear, we all kind of piped down. One of my siblings might be scratching his head while he's reading the book. And yeah, I remember that, almost 40-something years later, that time that he spent with us, where we weren't distracted by TVs, we weren't distracted by anything, we weren't distracted by trying to kill each other. We were just there enjoying his presence and enjoying the presence of just being around each other and being in a calm situation. So reading a book to grandchildren and children is a great way to do spending time together. And if you want, getting a book together with a buddy or a friend could be something too. And you don't even have to make it a formal book club kind of thing. It could be something as much as like, hey, I've heard about this book. I heard it's fantastic. I'm going to read this book. Here's a copy. Why don't you read this book? Let's go out to lunch next Friday. And at lunch, you get to talk about the book together. I'm not suggesting that you have your buddy climb up on your lap and you guys read, From Strength to Strength or Think and Grow Rich. What I am suggesting is that if you find a book that both of you might connect with, that you share that book with a buddy, and then you make appointments to sit down and talk about the book, over lunch, over dinner, whatever it might be. So those are some ways that I think you can give one of the most unique and one of the most special gifts this holiday season and throughout the entire year, is giving the gift of you and giving the gift of your presence. Now, the list I went through is certainly not the end-all be-all. Some of what I would probably put in here, and one of the things I'm looking forward to doing is doing a road trip with the grandkids at some point. Not necessarily all of them all at once, but being able to take them one at a time and spending time on the road with them, getting to know them, getting to know what their interests are, and just spending that time really cruising around America, letting them, find an abandoned parking lot, letting them drive around when they're 13 years old, and just having that experience. So, Again, this is not the end-all be-all list, but I hope you remember some of this, and I hope that you find a way that you can carve out time where you can give a most valuable gift of yourself to those around you and those that you love. So I appreciate this time that we've spent together. I don't want to take up too much more time. Next week, we're going to be back. I have a great interview with Ted Page. We're going to talk about the Good Grandpa blog, and we're going to talk about Ted and his book that he's starting to write and how you might be able to help him out with this. And then I'll probably do another release, and then I'll probably take a couple of weeks off. I might release a couple of best ofs over kind of that Christmas, New Year's weekends, so that I can do some work on the Cool Grandpa website, and that I can do some things in the background other than podcasting and doing the editing and doing the promotion and getting it all scheduled out. So stay tuned. If you see those best ofs, I hope you enjoy them. And if I have a couple of weeks where we take a pause, know that I'm thinking about you over the holidays. Know that I'm absolutely keeping good thoughts in my heart for your relationships with your grandsons, with your granddaughters, and with the people in life that you impact, because you're valuable to them. And I want to make sure that you know that you're important, and that this role of grandfather is not some kind of throwaway bonus role, nice to have kind of thing. You are absolutely 100% important to those grandkids, important to your kids, and important to your community. So if you think of any ways that I can help serve you better, please, please, please reach out. Let me know what I can do for you, because I want you to be the coolest grandpa you can be coming up in 2024. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and call it an episode, and I look forward to connecting with you next week. So until then, remember to stay cool. Thank you for listening to the Cool Grandpa Podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, please do me a favor and share it with a friend. That's the best way you can help us to expand our community, as well as get the news out about how valuable grandpas are in the lives of those kids. If you'd like to leave me a comment or shoot me a potential topic for this podcast, please go to www.cool-grandpa.us. Look for the comments tab, fill it out, hit submit. It's as easy as that. Until next time, remember to stay cool.